Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Songs. I'm Pete Pardo from Sea of Tranquility. Today, we've got a guest, once again, Ryan Skow.
Cheers.
Who is going to join me as we both look at our top 10 songs from the mighty thrash band Slayer. One of the most iconic heavy metal bands of all time. Call them what you will. Thrash. In my opinion, they influenced the whole death metal scene as well. Black metal, death metal.
Oh,
they kind of are
infinitely.
like a force unto their own. They're almost like unclassifiable to me.
They really are.
Because nobody else ever sounded like them. They sounded like nobody else, and they kind of hit at a time where extreme music was just really in its infancy. So alongside, Venom and Metallica and Merciful Fate and Celtic Frost and Hellhammer and whatnot, the scene just took off, but Slayer kind of forged their own path.
They're in their own little niche, and they have been for decades.
Yeah, exactly. So, and now that they're on their what appears to be their final tour, we'll see if that is indeed true. We figured we, take a look at some of our 10 favorites. Well, take a look at our 10 favorite Slayer songs, along with some honorable mentions, and see how that works out. So we'll let Ryan go first.
All right. Well, Slayer are the reason I'm talking to you, because they're the band that got me into metal when I was 15. I'm on 36. I heard Seasons in the Abyss, and that was it. I was off. Dived straight headfirst into metal. Haven't been right in the head since.
Solid album.
Yeah, it is a good album. I only included one song from it here, retrospectively. But anyway, I'm going to go chronologically, because narrowing this band in the top 10 from how much they mean to me, growing up, it was impossible. So from Show No Mercy, I picked the Antichrist and the Final Command. The Antichrist just has that iconic opening riff, and just such a memorable song. They always would play it live, even to the day. And the Final Command was like a little bit more of a deeper cut, underrated, but it's just straight up like speed metal.
It's great. Yeah.
At one point, someone said to me, if you listen to Show No Mercy, it's almost like Stay in Class at triple speed and about Satan. And once I heard that, I'm like, you know what? I can kind of hear that. It has that old Priest, because they grew up as Priest fans.
It totally does, yeah.
And that song really this is just this could be a Priest song, 33 set to 45. It kind of has that vibe to it. Just pure speed metal.
Pure speed. And to my ears, I hear a lot of Iron Maiden influence in that first album.
It could be, yeah.
In some of the arrangements. Not so much the intensity, but I think the guitar arrangements especially. And not that they were mimicking any riffs or anything like that, but it's just... and again, how could you... Iron Maiden was just really, really hitting at the time.
Oh, they were very prominent then.
So,
absolutely.
How could you not? But like I said, I think just Slayer were just a different beast altogether.
It's very fast, but it doesn't really lapse into thrash at that point. It just has that traditional metal, just played very, very fast.
Yes, yeah.
Awesome song. So then, there we go. Then, all right, this is my favorite heavy metal song of all time. Of all time,
wow.
If you put a gun to my head, maybe pick one song, it's going to be Chemical Warfare. Just everything about that song is perfect. It's evil as can be.
Yeah,
it is just absolutely raging. That slow middle section where if you've ever been caught in a Slayer mosh pit, some dude that's probably got 75 pounds on you was just going to throw you into a wall. You're going to pay for it the next day. Just a perfect song. The lyrics, the vocals, Lombardo's drums. It's amazing. Then I'd say this one I'm going to tie with Evil by Merciful Fate, the song, as the best intro in metal for me, and that is
you can't
Hell
deny
Awaits.
that. Yeah,
The intro to that song is just a bulldozer.
It's just like the slow builder too, and then all of a sudden, whammo! Yeah, it's a great one.
The way it just starts out with "Join Us" backwards and kind of builds up, and just before you know it, everybody's just headbanging in unison. Beers flying, hair's flying around, it's total mania. All right, then my favorite song from the Hell Awaits album is "At Dawn They Sleep." And this is the song to me where I think it might have been Kerry King at some point alluded to how much that album was influenced by Merciful Fate, and this song really exemplifies that. It has all those change ups, it goes through here, different sections and stuff. It's kind of longer for a lot of their stuff. Yeah. Just a perfect song. So freaking evil.
It's one of their longer songs.
It could be, yeah. But because most of their songs never really eclipse the 4.5 minute mark, maybe 5 or so.
Yeah, a lot were between 2 and 3 minutes.
And yeah, exactly, especially from Rain and Blood. But that song is just perfect. It's evil. It's just monstrous. All right, then another one of the best opening riffs ever, which is Postmortem from Rain and Blood. I know it kind of segues into Raining Blood if you had the old CD version where the time was kind of screwed up. It just becomes one song. But Postmortem especially is just, and again, it's a song they always would play live. As soon as you hear it, you're like, boom.
Everybody went nuts.
Everybody went freaking crazy.
Yeah.
And going back to the first song on that album, Angel of Death.
Yeah,
You know?
How can you not have
How could you have a list about Slayer without Angel of Death?
Gotta have it. Yeah.
You can't even say it's overrated because it's a perfect song. You know, the way it kicks in, Lombardo's double bass kicks in, and you know, Tom comes in with that ridiculous scream. It's like, oh, that's it, you know.
And, you know, quite frankly, how many people who maybe had never really heard Slayer before, that was their gateway to Slayer?
They heard that song, and like a little light goes off, it clicks. Yeah. From South of Heaven, I'm doing Silent Scream. You know, I know that album had a mix of slower and faster tracks, and I always loved the slower tracks. Had a great atmosphere, but as one of the fastest songs on that album, especially with that double bass, you know, from Lombardo and like a lot of the faster thrash riffs, I absolutely love that song.
Someone asked me a question recently on our Questions and Answers show. They asked, what was one notable album where when it first came out, you had such expectations for it and you were really disappointed? My answer was that album, actually.
I've heard that from a lot of people.
Because I've been into Slayer since Hell Awaits was my gateway to Slayer. That was the first album I bought. Then I bought Show No Mercy, and then, of course, you know, Rain and Blood came out. And I remember Rain and Blood was such a juggernaut. And then when South of Heaven came out, a lot of the tunes were slower. His vocals were a little different. It wasn't quite as intense. And myself and a lot of people I knew were kind of like, yeah, what happened here? You know? But in time, I've really grown to like that album a lot.
You know what I've thought about in recent years is it is slower than Rain and Blood, but is that album on a whole really like slower than Show No Mercy? It's really not.
Exactly.
It's not. Most of the song, like, you know, Live Undead's not slow. Ghosts of War is not slow. You know, a lot of that album is pretty up tempo. You know, other than like Mandatory Suicide, you know, the title track. But
to me, his vocals are a lot less extreme on that album. And I think, you know, we're comparing it to an album that was just like a runaway freight train, and maybe unfairly, right? So I think that at the time, I think a lot of fans were disappointed with that album because they were looking for Rain and Blood Part 2. And maybe that wasn't fair for the band or anybody, right? So, but again, an album that has stood the test of time. And I actually think South of Heaven is a very, very strong album.
It's still referenced a lot, but I've heard a lot of people say that that's the album where they're like, you know, that's all they want from Slayer. But I've always loved it. And my last song is the first Slayer song I ever heard. And that is the first song on Seasons, and that is War Ensemble, which is a monster thrash song. Yeah, you know, they still play it live to the day. Lombardo is just unhinged on that with all those fills later on, and it's just a great, you know, it's a great thrash song, and it exemplifies to me Slayer like they're most aggressive. You know.
Yep, no, I absolutely agree, and I think that for me that album kind of was more at the time. Again, I'm going back to, you know, when I was a bit younger and that first came out. I think that's kind of the album that most of the fans wanted to follow up Rain and Blood. But again, I think, you know, looking back, I think both of those two albums are very, very formidable follow-ups to the Rain and Blood album and stand on their own very solidly.
I think so. I still enjoy both of them quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so for my top 10, so I'm going to kick off with, for number 10, Angel of Death by Rain and Blood, or from Rain and Blood, I should say. Again, how can you not have it in the top 10?
You can't omit that song.
No.
And crazy.
I remember seeing them on that tour, and they launched into that song, and the place just went absolutely bonkers. I mean, just picture yourself in it was called the Theater at Madison Square Garden at the time, and, you know, there are cops everywhere, and they launched into that, and we really thought that the place was just going to get...
The ceiling was coming down.
Oh, yeah, it was crazy. So that's my number 10. Number 9, also from the Rain and Blood album, Jesus Saves. I always really like that tune a lot. Great song. Number 8, At Dawn They Sleep from Hell Awaits.
Awesome.
I love the intricate guitar work on that. It's just this winding, weaving, snake-like guitar riff. And
I almost wish they wrote a little bit more like that. As much as I love Rain and Blood, I wish they had...
There's little bits of that style all over in their catalog, but it's not sustainable.
Not as
like
focused.
That. Absolutely agree with you. So that's number 8. Coming at number 7, The Antichrist, off of my favorite Slayer album, Show No Mercy. I just love The Antichrist.
Oh, it's a great song.
Such a great song.
The riffs, you know, it's just as soon as you hear that opening riff, it's like, you know exactly who it is.
Yep.
It's so memorable.
I totally dig it. And number 6, actually, when I first got the Show No Mercy album, it was instantly my favorite song on the album. I still really, really love it a lot, although I think another one kind of usurped that, and that's Die by the Sword. And I just love the kind of galloping roll to that tune. It's just it's really, really good stuff. Just love that album a lot. It's so underrated, I think. Coming in at number 5, the title track to Hell Awaits. Again, Ryan said it all before. It just, that tune just builds and builds. It's got this kind of evil beginning.
Then it just takes off on you.
And that slow, menacing riff, and then whammo, you know, just in your face, just million miles an hour. Just awesome stuff. Coming in at number 4, Black Magic from Show No Mercy.
Great song. Great song.
Love it. Coming in at number 3, could have been higher, but my top 2 just had to be my top 2. Chemical Warfare off the Haunting the Chapel EP. And, I love Captor of Sin, too, and I love the title cut to that. Captor of Sin is great.
I had to admit that song. I added it, and then I'm like, it's so good.
It pained me to leave it off. It really did. But, man, Chemical Warfare is probably, like, the most perfect thrash song.
It really is. I just can't think of a better song that exemplifies, like, if you had to describe thrash to someone, If I had to pick 5 songs, it's always going to be number one.
Yeah, it's absolutely has to be one of them. Yep, if not the top one. So my number 1 and 2, I almost said I'm going to do them in a package deal as number 1, but they are 2 different songs. They just happen to segue. One segues into the other. They are the last 2 tracks on the classic Rain and Blood album, and one of them has always been my favorite Slayer song. But I love number 2 so much, and like I said, they're almost like a package deal, so I had to include them. Coming in at number 2 is Raining Blood, and number 1 is Postmortem. I just think that riff to Postmortem is one of the most chilling, extreme metal, thrash metal, heavy metal, whatever you want to call it, riffs of all time.
I feel guilty leaving Raining Blood off, because it's their most famous song ever.
I know.
That riff is like
and
probably one of the most famous metal riffs.
Are just awesome. It's just, those 2 songs, for me, those 2 tracks, or if you want to call them all one in a package deal, just exemplifies all that was so great about Slayer, back in their heyday. That
riff to Raining Blood, that's like the Smoke on the Water riff for like thrash.
Absolutely.
Someone picks up a guitar, like, play a riff. They're going to probably go, they might go right to that riff,
Absolutely. And how about the production on that album?
Oh, it sounds like
I've never been a huge fan of his, but I think he did such a fantastic job on that album.
It still maintains all the evilness of like the earlier stuff, but it sounds huge, and it's like it's walking like a tightrope to not get all sterile and clean.
Yep.
But it doesn't have that cavernous, like awesome rawness that Hell Awaits had, which was perfect. So it's. I think it was like lightning in a bottle. You probably couldn't do that again. To sound that evil and that clear, like the drum kit sound. It's almost like an old Martin Birch sound, where it's like massive and clean, but it has that evil vibe to it.
I totally agree with you.
I agree. I've never really been a big Rick Rubin fan. Like other than that, just a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and he worked on a lot of really big albums, but are any of them, to me, none of them really stand out. Whether you're talking about the Cult or Red Hot Chili Peppers, or although I like what he did with Sabbath's last album, I thought that was pretty damn good. But none of his productions, in my opinion, stand out like Rain and Blood.
It's not a producer you're like I said, Martin Birch. You hear albums that he did back in the day, you're like, that had such an iconic sound. Like the drum sound on
We could do a whole show just talking about Martin Birch.
Exactly.
It's just crazy.
Mob Rules, it's like, he did that one. Rainbow Rising.
Yeah, exactly. All those Deep Purple albums,
it's iconic.
It's like the Maiden albums, for crying out loud. Whitesnake. He did so many like iconic albums, and he had that sound. Whereas Rick Rubin,
not really, no.
I thought some of his albums were very dry and just kind of like lacking punch.
But Rain and Blood,
this album,
that's nail on the head with that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So I jotted down a bunch of honorable mentions here, so I'll just kick them off here.
Oh, that's a good list.
So from the Show No Mercy album, how about Fight Till Death, Metal Storm, Face the Slayer, kind of had to throw that in there. Tormentor's great, The Final Command, Ryan mentioned that.
The chorus in Tormentor is that kind of, it's like multi-track a little bit with the vocals, but that's so good.
Very cool. From Hell Awaits, how about Kill Again and Crypts of Eternity?
Awesome song.
Let's see. Also from Rain and Blood, Piece by Piece, Altar of Sacrifice, Reborn. Title track to South of Heaven and Silent Scream. I think you mentioned Silent Scream.
Live Undead.
Right? Live Undead. That's a great tune, right?
That is an awesome song.
Yep. What else we got here? War Ensemble, Blood Red, Spirit in Black, Expendable Youth. How about Dead Skin Mask? How about title track Seasons in the Abyss, right? Killing Fields, Divine Intervention, Fictional Reality.
I love that album.
Yeah, it's a really good, it's a heavy album.
It is.
Right? And then I didn't put them down, but Captor of Sin and the Haunting the Chapel tune off of the very cool EP. So, and just to run down my top 10 again. Postmortem, Rain and Blood, both off the Rain and Blood album. Raining Blood, I should say. Chemical Warfare off the Haunting the Chapel EP. Number 4, Black Magic from Show No Mercy. Number 5, Hell Awaits, title track. Number 6, Die with the Sword from Show No Mercy. Number 7, The Antichrist, also from Show No Mercy. Number 8, At Dawn They Sleep from Hell Awaits. Number 9, Jesus Saves from Rain and Blood. And number 10, Angel of Death from Rain and Blood. So, Ryan, thanks a lot for joining us
Absolutely.
on this
My pleasure.
little Judas not Judas Priest. I've got Judas Priest on the brain. I'm actually taping the Judas Priest show later today. So anyway, this is all about Slayer here, guys. Sorry about that. So make sure you visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're on the mighty YouTube very, very often. So I urge all of you to go out, pull out all your old Slayer albums, give them a whirl. Let's hear your top 10 in the comments and feedback. We'd love to see it. And till next time, be good. We got a lot more coming at you, so stay tuned. See you.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.